Another huge primary night in America with possible implications for the midterms. Progressive candidates having a rough go at it in New York. Impeachment lawyer Dan Goldman ousted far-left Representative Mondaire Jones. The guy who gets Democrats elected, Sean Patrick Maloney, won his primary over an AOC-backed challenger. And Florida voters picking former Republican, now Democrat Charlie Crist over a progressive to face Governor Ron DeSantis this fall. But the most delicious highlight of the night was this bitter feud between two sitting Democratic House lawmakers. Career politician Jerry Nadler cruised to victory, ending Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney's 30-year run in Congress. Maloney lobbing claims of sexism over her bruising loss.
Heroic women fought sexist systems and misogyny that continues today, as we know from my own campaign. I'm really saddened that we no longer have a woman representing Manhattan in Congress, and we cannot and we must not give up. The fight continues.
All right, Dana, she got walloped.
She did.
There was a redistricting that pitted two, of the liberal lions in the House, Nadler and Maloney. But for her claiming, misogyny and all that, isn't that kind of an old song? And
well, remember, they've been in Congress since 1993. 1992. Yeah, so they've been there. They've been serving together. The Democrats have completely screwed up redistricting in New York. And that's why you see these results. So then you have Carolyn Maloney and Nadler have to fight against each other. And the ads got really nasty. And I'm kind of sad it's over because it was kind of fun to watch. Like, you're senile. Like, you're sexist. Yeah. And they're having this big fight. Then there was a third person, Suraj Patel, who tried to play spoiler. But Nadler, I think partly because he was so visible during the Trump impeachments that the liberals of New York City have said, that's going to be our guy. I also think it's interesting that Mondaire Jones lost because that's a member of the squad, and now they're down one. And you know who's probably celebrating today? Abigail Spanberger.
When you talk about the squad, the progressives, and I'll go to you on this, Harold, the progressives did not have a great night. Whether it was the AOC-backed candidate Biaggi or the one that she supported Cuellar against Cisneros, the AOC-backed candidates did not do well. And Max Rose won against a progressive as well. What does that tell us looking at the midterms?
Dems are more moderate. The national message for Dems, they understand to be successful, you have to distance yourself from dysfunction and be more aligned with progress and more aligned with outcomes, serious outcomes for people. Two, the biggest race I thought in the state last night was the bellwether state where Democrat Pat Ryan beat a very popular, I believe he told me, a fellow named Mark Molinaro. It was a two-point race in abortion and freedom of women's freedom and women's choice played a huge role in that race. So, again, we talked about polls the other day on the show. No poll right now is decisive or conclusive. It's instructive. But I'll tell you this. These are actual numbers with actual voters voting. Democrats should be pleased with last night, and the country should, too, because if Democrats get back to the middle, we have a fighting chance, not only as a party, but I think as a country to get things done. And then two, Democrats won a key district here in New York.
Jesse, they talk about the decision, the Dobbs decision, not really affecting that many people. But I think that the one race that Harold just referenced, and that's the Mark Molinaro race and Pat Ryan race, that was pretty much all on abortion. And Molinaro was a very popular guy. Should the Republicans be concerned about this now?
I am concerned about it, so they should be concerned about it. Yeah, I'm a little concerned. I'm not going to lie about it.
Okay.
I am concerned. I mean, it's a big concern. All right? I'm not going to lie. So is this the best we have, this crop of candidates? You look at someone like Nadler, who looks like a hobbit. He's representing the richest district in the entire country.
But he
won. Is that the best we can do?
He won.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, no one else wants to run for Congress on the Upper East Side or the Upper West Side. I live on the Upper East Side. I see beautiful people walking around, tall, healthy, all of their hair. They're quick with wit, and they know what they're talking about. The guy looks like he's not going to make it to the next session. He's the best we can do, and then the woman, Maloney, she's having someone else hold the microphone up and she's just saying everything's sexist. Yeah, the people in the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side are not sexist. They just think you stink. Like, this is who we have representing us?
Okay, I'm going to go to Tyrus right now.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited to follow that.
All right, Tyrus.
Hey,
look,
shake what you got, Nadler.
Biden can say, look, I got the Inflation Reduction Act passed, which has nothing to do with inflation reduction, but who cares? And, I got the Senate to vote for Finland and NATO to be Finland and Sweden to be part of NATO and semiconductor and burn pits. And I'm thrilled. Even Mitch McConnell isn't that excited about winning the Senate. Are the Democrats better positioned than a lot of people thought they were?
I would like to say yes, but unfortunately, President Biden, who used to be a moderate monster and was actually too strict on things like crime and et cetera, he beat the progressives to become president, but he laid down like a folding chair for them, and he's been their puppet ever since. So it's nice to see. It's not about the politicians. The American people spoke, and I'm happy to see, as a Republican, real Democrats stand up, and this progressive first world problem stuff where your pronoun is the biggest argument, what's going on your kitchen table, is taking a backseat to real issues. And I'm happy to see Democrats, where have you been? Welcome back to the table. But like Jesse, I'm a little uncomfortable, but I'd rather be in that argument with somebody I can have a dialogue with, where as soon as I open my mouth, like misogynistic. And if I say something else, you're a racist. It's a little rough being a white supremacist these days.
Disappointing that Maloney went out like that. Oh, it was misogyny. 32 years.
32
get
years,
over it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.